Welcome to Night Light. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Night Light, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome everybody to Night Light. So glad you could join me tonight. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. We have Calleman with us, and he's written a fascinating book called The Global Mind and the Rise of Civilization, The Quantum Evolution of Consciousness. Comes in from a sort of a different direction, but a fascinating one nonetheless, and it kind of expands upon our understanding of who we are, why we are, and how we are. In each culture, the origins of civilization can be tied to the arising of one concept in the human mind, and that's straight lines. Straight and perpendicular lines are not found in nature, so where did they come from? What shift in consciousness occurred around the globe that triggered the start of rectangular building methods and linear organization, as well as written language, pyramid construction, mathematics, and art? He offers a detailed answer to this question and explores the quantum evolution of the global mind and its holographic resonance with the human mind. He examines how our brains are not thinking machines, but individual receivers of consciousness from the global mind, which creates holographic downloads to adjust human consciousness to new cosmological circumstances. He explains how the Mayan calendar provides a blueprint for these downloads throughout history, and how the global mind, rather than the individual, has the power to make civilizations rise and fall. He shows how, at the beginning of the Mayan sixth wave long count in 3115 BCE, the global mind gave human beings the capacity to contextualize spatial relations in terms of straight and perpendicular lines, initiating the building of pyramids and megaliths around the world and leading to the rise of modern civilization. He examines the symbolism within the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Pyramid at Chichen Itza, and looks at the differences between humans of the sixth wave in ancient Egypt, Sumer, and South America and Asia, and the cave painters in the fifth wave. He reveals how the global mind is always connected to the inner core of the earth, and discusses how the two halves of the brain parallel the civilizations of the East and the West. Outline the historical, psychological, geographical, and neurological roots of the modern human mind. He shows how studying early civilizations offers a means of understanding the evolution of consciousness. It's really quite a journey and very fascinating, and I'm so glad that I can welcome him to the show tonight. Carl, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed your book, and I think that you come from concepts that a lot of my listeners haven't considered before, but I think are very, very reasonable concepts to come from. And you speak of the global mind, and I think that's a term that so many of the people here are not familiar with. You want to explain what the global mind is?
Yeah, well, I could. Actually, I would say that the global mind is part of the universal mind, and then we here, we sort of, the most immediate source of our own minds, our own human individual minds, is the global mind. So it's actually like the planet Earth has a kind of a mind, and but ultimately all goes back to the universal and galactic minds. And these are like, you know, I'm sure you and many other listeners have been interested in sacred geometry, and it's really a geometry of the mind that has been changing over the centuries and millennia, and those changes has changed people. So we're not really the same as we were 5,000 years ago and 10,000 years ago. And some might say, well, we know that we're not the same because there's such an obvious difference in technology and so forth. But the change goes deeper than that. It's actually our whole perception of reality, which is different today from what it was, say, 10,000 years ago or any other point in history. It's because we are in this resonance not only with the global mind, but also with the universal mind, and that particular universal mind undergoes changes, shifts in its geometry, you might say. Then that drives the evolution of consciousness. And that's why we today are able to, you know, on the positive side, we have been able to create a lot of technology, so to speak. But it's also these geometries of the mind that dominates our mind and shapes our mind. They have also led to different religions and pretty much everything I would suggest comes back to this. And which means, you know, ultimately it means there is a divine plan. And that divine plan operates through these changing minds that come from, as you pointed out, the straight lines and perpendicular lines and so forth that we download. They're not visible to our own eyes. These are invisible phenomena. But you can, at least for ancient times, the ancients could sometimes see these phenomena. And otherwise, I don't see how it is that they could describe it. But the global mind is the mind of our planet, and you know, maybe the easiest analogy to look at is the fact that our own minds, our individual human minds, are based on the dichotomy between the left and the right brain hemispheres. And something similar is happening on the level of the Earth, where there is a dichotomy between West and East that carries completely different mentalities and so forth. And these dichotomies, they ultimately are sourced from the universal mind, which you might say is sort of where the whole cosmic plan originates and from which it unfolds. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It's sort of. I think that your philosophy here is incredible, and I think what fascinates me so much is that we know from looking at skeletons and stuff that our minds have changed, our brains have changed, and our minds, are connected there too, so that what we are capable of is far different than what say a Neanderthal was capable of, or something like that. And yet, in many cases, we're shocked at some of the beautiful cave paintings that go back 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years that they were able to conceive and conceptualize. And so one wonders, if you took someone from that time frame as a baby and put them into this time frame, would their mind be able to evolve and develop the same way our children do?
Well, I think so. I think it's all about what time you are incarnating on the planet, so to speak, and you're born into then a particular mind frame, and that's exactly what is changing over time. So so that what would happen if you took some baby there from 40,000 years ago and put it into today's world, then I think that it would more or less automatically download the kind of mind that we all share. Not all share. There is a variation, of course, in this, but still we have a fundamental similarity between the mind or all over the planet, which helps us understand what the other people are thinking and saying and so forth, even if we may not always agree with it. But it's, I think, if you take a person from that time, as a small little child, and placed it here, then it would automatically sort of tune in to the kind of waves that we are used to at this particular time, and it would automatically become like most of us are. That's what I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now you talk about downloads, and you talk about the difference between the mind and the brain. You want to explain that difference?
Yeah, well, sure. The mind, I don't believe, to begin with, I don't believe that the mind is created by our brains. But I think that these geometries that emanates from the cosmos, they mix, or as our brains download them, a mind is created. I think that's how it should be put. And it may be a little bit hard for us for many to agree with this, because we tend to think that our minds are our own. It's sort of like our property or something like that, and that everything we think is really generated from ourselves. But in this perspective that I'm presenting here, it's rather like the mind that we have is ultimately generated from the cosmic source, and then as our brains download these geometries, we will have another kind of a mind. So the brain does not create the mind. Or even though the brain is necessary for the mind to manifest. It's sort of an interaction between these cosmic geometries that change over time and our brains that will then serve as receivers, essentially, of the mind.
Yeah, I think that what got me was you used the term mind, where I used the term awareness or consciousness.
Yeah.
And so that understanding that those are all it's semantics we're talking here. So that makes a great deal more sense, because it was sort of like I got where it was all coming from, the source of creation, whatever you want to call it, is what is the power behind all of this, and that makes a great deal of sense. So what I was fascinated with was the connection that you have and that you've made through with the Mayan calendar, and it makes such perfectly logical sense the way that you have been able to weave the Mayan calendar into the shifts and the changes in the consciousness of humanity. And that started at 3,115 BCE. Is that when the Mayan calendar started?
Well, that's probably the most important one of their long waves. That particular calendar usually goes by the name of long count, but I usually refer to it as the sixth wave, because it is like the pyramids that the Maya would build were built in 9 levels, and each one of these levels develops a kind of a state of consciousness, you might say. There is a wave form that creates a particular state of consciousness, and then the history of the universe, you might say, is how these different levels, these 9 different levels of the pyramids, how they are added upon each other, and with each one new such wave, a new reality becomes created by the human beings. So there are 9 of them, and maybe in this particular book I didn't go too much into discussing all the 9 waves, because I wanted to focus on one particular aspect, which is the 6th wave, and as you said, starting in 3,115 BCE. And that particular wave, that particular state of consciousness, is one that is actually described by the Maya in one of their inscriptions at the Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque. And it's described as a change in the center of the universe, you might say, what they call the place of creation, or maybe some would say the heavenly abode, some kind of a center from which all these different states of consciousnesses are ultimately coming forth. So that is a very interesting shift that took place, and the Maya describe it. But one interesting aspect of this is that the Maya were, presumably, for all what we know, they were not familiar with what happened in all other parts of the world. They probably just stayed in their own homeland. And yet, when we study history, we do find that the first real civilizations, like the ones in Egypt, in Sumer, and the Indus Valley, and to some extent also in Peru, they start at exactly the same point in time when the Maya described as this shift taking place in the cosmic geometry, this sort of what they talked about as some kind of 8 partitioning, like you can imagine a compass rose, so to speak, with all the directions and they're perpendicular, the 4 directions and all that. Presumably before that point in time, people did not have a mind that allowed them to use straight lines or use perpendicular lines in order to organize reality and structure reality and so forth. And that led to an enormous change in some of these places like Egypt where people were ready for it, where there's a large population, a lot of agriculture already going on. People were ready for it, but then at some point there comes this change in their minds because a new state of consciousness had been activated. And that was exactly what I believe led them to create cities, pyramids, and what have you, written languages, and so forth. All of these things actually emanate them from cosmic geometries. So that's the origin of the beginning of human civilizations. And then it continues like a wave movement, and with peaks and valleys, like any kind of a wave. And usually then when there is the peak in the wave, there is a new creativity. The human mind is then supported in a new creativity, and all kinds of things come up. They invent things and so forth. Usually then, on the other hand, when there is a valley in the wave, if you can just think of a typical wave movement, then when there is a valley, usually there is a rest in history, or integration, you might say, and sometimes even destruction. So there is a sort of a pattern of changing realities for those that download a particular wave, even though overall it is a stepwise movement forward that leads to what you might say more and more advanced expressions, in this case of civilizations.
Yeah, I noticed that that the different waves had different amounts of time between them. So
yeah.
it isn't something that has a rhythm to it exactly, because some have shorter periods of time between the upswing and the downswing. So we're in at this point in time. You said the seventh wave.
No, I would say the ninth. All the waves have now been activated, and the ninth wave is the highest of these waves. The pyramids were built in 9 levels in order to symbolize, as I see it, this cosmic plan for activation of higher and higher states of consciousness. And fairly recently, about in the year 2011, the highest and the ninth wave was activated. And that's quite a different mind that is brought to human beings through that, compared to the sixth wave or any other wave, you might say. They each have their characteristics, and as they are activated, they tend to change the world that humans will create from them.
But we're not. We can't be done. I mean,
no,
we're
can't.
We're certainly not finished.
No, I would agree with you on that. And it's just that, in a certain sense, I think the highest wave is already accessible, but very few humans have downloaded it or have been able to access it fully, so to speak. Part of the reason is that it has such a high frequency, and it has it's only had like 10 years to be influencing us here on Earth. And I think it would take more time for people to be fully immersed in that particular ninth wave. So we're not done, but the cosmos, in a sense, may be done. The cosmos may have given us all the tools that we need, or all the potential states of consciousness that we may be in. But we as a human species have not fully immersed ourselves in that. We're still sort of living in lower waves as I see it.
Well, when you look at our behavior, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, you could compare us to the Romans as far as that goes.
Yes.
So in other words, so we will stay at this particular wavelength until enough people have ascended to the right frequency. Is that it? And then once we, I mean, people are looking around at what's going on today and finding it very disturbing and upsetting. And because we're able to see what's going on, we're very aware of the cruelty that is being handed out here. And so it's when the Mayan calendar ended, and it's everybody said, well, the world is going to end, and I was pretty sure that wasn't going to happen. But it's sort of like, how long will we be in, or is it a forever thing that we are going to be on the seventh wave, not the seventh wave, the ninth wave?
No.
And where do we go from here?
Yeah. Okay, that's a big question, and it is all the waves are continuing, so to speak, to run. And it is. There are all kinds of technical descriptions of how these waves are changing, and that's not possible to go into here on this interview, because you would need to see pictures and diagrams and all these kind of things. And it is a complicated situation because. The shift that did take place in 2011, it carried different kind of effects on the different waves. So partly some of the waves, especially the sixth wave, went into a downturn. As I mentioned, the valleys are downturns, and that is. That's a problematic thing. I mean, of course, humanity has survived many of these downturns. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But on the other hand, it's a darker time in a sense. But then, at the same time as that shift happened to go down into the valleys, there was an activation of the ninth wave, that is bringing more what we call unity consciousness, that sort of, in a sense, brings us back to unity without projecting duality onto other peoples. And so it's quite a complex situation that we are in at this point, and I can't describe it fully without diagrams and pictures and so forth. That's all I can say.
Well, when you're looking at this, I come from a spiritual background, so So what I get out of this is that our consciousness, our awareness, is being triggered to be more and more expansive.
Yeah.
But our behavior is lagging behind where our conscious awareness is.
Yeah.
Is that what is happening? That the two parts of us aren't in synchronicity at this moment in time. That our spiritual essence is quite possibly has access to much more than we're taking advantage of, but our physical essence is caught in a loop that's far behind where the spiritual is.
Oh, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It makes a lot of sense.
How do we catch up? I mean, is there...
Yeah, okay. Okay, let me
Go ahead.
say something
Sure.
about that. First of all, these different ways, they don't force us to change in different ways, but they will support, they will foster certain behaviors and so forth. But how do we catch up? I think part of it is to have this kind of develop on a personal level, to develop a resonance with the cosmic source, with the origin, so to speak, with the cosmic light, and that's something we have to develop. I think spiritual practices in order to get to. And and as we, this whole what shall I say, theory that I have developed is based on the idea that there is a cosmic source that ultimately we're in connection with, and so, but we can develop that connection more or less, and so that's one thing. Then there is the other, another aspect of this is that, unity consciousness sort of implies that you have, that there are two different people, two individuals, you might say, who are...
Carl?
And which is not just an individual thing, and so forth. And then, there are
you're breaking up. Yeah, your voice is breaking up. Nope, can't hear you at all. Hello? Carl? Well, fully. The material here is wonderful, and it's fascinating. I can't figure out where his phone went. I have a friend whose phone always dies at the good stuff, so...
Yeah, well...
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm moving here. Sorry. Now you hear me?
Now I hear
Hello?
you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
fine.
Then there are people who, like Patricia Alber, who is a woman that I collaborate with in a sense, who are developing practices how you can, through mutual interactions, develop the resonance with this ninth wave. And basically you sort of tune into this particular state of consciousness. And that is an aspect of the ninth wave, that since it's a unity consciousness, it should be possible then for people to, different people to unify in the same state of consciousness. So those are just a couple of things that I think work in order to tune into this ninth wave. And I think, because it's the highest of the waves, the top of the pyramid, so to speak, to me at least, it is very clear that is what the creation has intended for us to get to. And that is one of the big, I would say, advantages of following the Mayan calendar, is that it has a direction. It really is going towards that unified consciousness without any filters that create separation, without any filters that we would project darkness onto others. Yes, I think, it's a climb. The pyramid has been climbed over the billions of years, actually, starting 16 billion years ago, and then with every such new wave with a higher frequency, things have speeded up. And we've come now to the highest frequency. The ninth wave is the highest frequency, and that is also then when the change is happening the most rapidly among people. Yeah.
But it doesn't happen in every individual at the same time.
No, and maybe not even in. I think an intention is necessary. That's what I think. There are those people that choose to. They want to have that immediate resonance with the cosmic source, or they want to have some kind of a mutual awakening into oneness with other individuals. But that's, if you don't have these intentions, I don't think it will happen. That's what I think. So based on that,
makes sense.
So based on that, it will not happen all across the board simultaneously. No, it's a much more diverse process than that. Well,
yeah, I think what I kept getting is that while that's the goal, in every single one of these different waves, there have always been those that were ahead of the pack, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
yes.
when it comes to, for instance, the building of the pyramids, it took somebody that was way ahead of everybody else to figure it out, and then of course they could teach others. But when you look at the Great Pyramid, and we still don't know how it was built,
right?
But that doesn't seem to matter. The fact that it is I think even more important. But,
right.
So what was the purpose of the pyramid? Was it sending a message to the future? Was it utilized in some form of transmission at that particular point in time? Was it something to awaken awareness in other people? As far as I know, you don't know exactly, but what's your thought on what the purpose of the Great Pyramid was?
Yeah, well, this is not something I know, so to speak. But I can tell you what I believe, and it is that at around that time, that's when the sixth wave was activated, and the Maya describes that event as the activation of an eight partitioning, you might say. In other words, like you could say a compass rose is one way of looking at it, but it's 8 different lines originating in a point in the center, and now. And you find these symbolism from many peoples that at that time from China, from India, from Anatolia, from Mesopotamia, and from certainly from Greece and from Egypt, you find that kind of symbolism of partitioning of 8 structures. And an interesting aspect then of the Great Pyramid at Giza is that it's 8-sided. So it has exactly that kind of division of structure that the Maya much later described as having happened at that particular time. So my guess is that they saw what the Maya described is that this 8 partitioning, it happened in the cosmic center, some way out in the universe, and we can track pretty much where it is. But then my guess is that the Egyptians simply wanted to reflect that change, that cosmic change, reflect that change down on earth and create heaven on earth. They sensed that the source of this new mind, which then could create the kind of civilization that the Egyptians would build, that came. They sensed that came from the cosmos, and I'm guessing that they wanted to build some kind of a receptor for that particular geometric structure, because that they knew would be the beginning of their new civilization, something completely new that they could not have created without that cosmic influx that it meant. And I believe that then that the Egyptians, those that built the pyramids, they were quite enthusiastic about it. That's something they really wanted to do, almost like a what should I say, communal service or something like that, a service to the common good or something like that. But this is what I'm guessing or making of it. But it's just that these kind of symbols of dividing of eight lines, really straight lines, they're so prevalent from exactly that time when, according to the Maya, something happened up in the cosmos and gave us a new mind that we have downloaded. That to me, it just makes sense to attribute it to that. So that's my guess.
Well, now we kind of know when each of these waves sort of crested. Was there any astrological events at those times that might signal the fact that something was going to happen? I don't know, like meteor showers or something, an asteroid or something hitting the Earth plane or something that would trigger an awareness. I mean, or did it just sort of happen slowly overnight and nobody noticed it?
Well, people must have more or less noticed it, but I tend to think, it originates in the center of the universe. It's way, way bigger thing than our solar system with its relations or anything like that. So I think it was a shift in the mind of the entire universe. That's how I look upon it, and that it doesn't have to be something physical, anything material that creates it. You could think of I shouldn't say that, but so it doesn't have to be anything. I think this is beyond the physical, actually, that this shift happened. And anyway, that's what I think.
just because that energy is available for everybody doesn't mean that everybody is going to reach for it and claim it.
Right. No.
And I think that's... So do we have any personal control over these downloads, or are we basically waiting for the next shot, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. That's a big question. I do think we have a choice in that, and that's why I said that I think the intention is crucial for this. Yeah, I mean, seek and you will find, I think it says somewhere in the Bible, and if we don't seek, you won't find, simply. And so today, especially if we want to attain that kind of higher integral consciousness of the ninth wave, we will have to have the intention of taking it down, so to speak. That's what I think. I think we have some say in it. That's my experience also. You can download. You can intend to download cosmic energies from the cosmic light source, and then do it. I think so.
I agree with you. I think though that in order for that to happen, it's a learning wave, and you have to be willing to do the work, and you can't just. It's not like standing under a shower and getting, bathed in celestial light. It's a lot of work, but that once you understand the rewards, and they're great. They aren't monetary, but they're great rewards. It seems to me that when people are aware that it's available, and I think that's one of the wonderful parts about your book, because you do tell them it's available, it's there, it's been quote unquote downloaded into our energetic field, and it's up to us to choose or not to utilize it within our lives. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now you started this whole thing out though with the straight line and the perpendicular line.
Yes.
And in my opinion, at this point in time, there are all sorts of squiggly lines there now too. So what is the straight and the perpendicular?
Sorry, what kind of lines you said also?
Squiggly.
What? Squiggly.
Squiggly. They aren't straight. They seem to be.
Okay.
They seem to be going all over the place.
Right.
They're curly. They're curly.
Oh, they're curly. Okay. You may.
I may what?
You may be absolutely right on this. I should just explain that, being a scientist myself, I try to find whatever I can prove, so to speak, that I can provide evidence. And I think it's a lot of evidence that points to straight lines or perpendicular lines coming into existence about 5,000 years ago. But there might be other, as you're saying, squiggly lines and so forth, but I haven't paid attention to it because I have thought it's too difficult to evidence, to prove the existence of that. But that doesn't exclude that it still may exist. And I don't know. Have you seen the painting by Gustav Klimt of the Tree of Life?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It's an interesting thing because, I talk about, in my books and in my work here, I talk about the tree of life essentially almost like a straight line. And that's how the Maya also would very much describe it. But Gustav Klimt, in the beginning of the 20th century, made a quite famous picture of the tree of life. And it's completely different. It's curly, and it's golden, and it has all kinds of things around it. And so these things, as you're suggesting, may very well exist, but it's just a little bit more difficult to prove that they exist, as far as I can tell, anyway.
Well, I mean, you talked about the cave paintings, and how how they didn't have frames around them,
right?
But that in some of the cases, the paintings were more than lifelike. They were just beautiful.
Yeah.
And they did not have straight lines or
right.
No. They were very, very much alive.
Alive. No, that's right. Yeah. But that's before the sixth wave. And the sixth wave, you can say that it has had some good sides of it, creating a kind of civilization, but it also has had a lot of, negative sides, maybe, including creating a much more structured and rigid mind, and definitely less of contact with nature came with that. And almost everything has both a good and a bad side when you look at these various waves that humanity has been going through and continue to go through.
Well, certainly now, today, people are more and more open to the fact that their behavior, their thoughts, their deeds have a great deal to do with their evolution. And we can certainly use the different frequencies that are available out there to help to trigger those concepts within our own reality. And I've used a lot of the solfeggio resonances when being creative or meditating or whatever, and they do take you to different places. And I think so many people want the work to be done for them instead of them doing the work for the benefits of it. That's where I'm seeing your book being so important, because it does basically say you're in charge of healing yourself and your environment, and here are the tools. Take them and work with them and make changes. And with society today, there's just so much going on. It's hard for people to get to that place when they're so worried about eating and living and stuff like that.
Well, the solfeggio resonances, they are parallels to the Mayan system, because there are 9 of them, and then they have effects on different levels of your body, I think. And I'm not an expert on it, but isn't it? It starts with the most. And so there are definitely parallels. And in a sense, it's the same kind of climb you need to go through. I'm not saying that it's identical or that you can replace one with the other, but there are parallels, and maybe they can even be used for this climb. I don't know. I couldn't speak for that.
Well, it's different strokes for different folks. And everybody, there will be, as independent as we all are, there is still at the very core of every individual that connection to the source. And so there is that ability to tap back into the global mind and the cosmic mind and draw energy from there. And I think that what your book in many ways does is it gives people a roadmap as to how to find those areas and tap into them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But so out of curiosity, how do the scientists get involved with the Mayan calendar?
Well, you're born into a certain Mayan day sign, and Well, to me, it feels like a mission I was born with, actually. But I have. It's only later in life that once I have sort of gone into the Mayan cosmology, that I've come to realize that, this was probably a mission I had. I was here to do this particular work, and so, for instance, there are 20 basic day signs in the sacred calendar of the Maya, and I'm born as a jaguar. And jaguars are supposed to be able to see things that others don't see. They're night animals, really. And so they should have some kind of a vision, or sometimes they have a vision of seeing in the dark. And I can say that maybe fits with myself. I feel like it fits. So it's a little bit a funny thing. Of course, most scientists would not simply give up on their career and start doing this because it's economically risky and so forth. But I just decided I will take those risks, and I'm still here after. And now it's. When did I do that? It's like 93, I think. So that's 30 years. 30 years. It's 30 years since I left my previous career and started with this. And it was a risk, but, either you seek to fulfill what you're here to do or you don't. And
well, I think, here. It's a matter of, going where you're called, as opposed to, taking someone else's pathway. I think that what I am most comfortable with is this. I love your downloads. You take a spiritual philosophy and you put it right into computer technology and downloading.
Yeah.
So what about those individuals that, for want of a better word, we'll call them masters of wisdom or something like that. So that what are those? In other words, I'm looking for. Do you think that there are literally people today that can get into that ninth wave consciousness and help others to understand what's there to work for, or do you think that it's just something we have to discover on our own?
I think we have to discover it on our own, but then there are people that can help us on the way, and that have developed, you might say, spiritual practices that we can all follow. That I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be really specific here too. When I'm talking spiritual, I'm not talking religious.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I understand that, and
it seems. I think the other thing that fascinated me was how the left and the right half of our brain is in many ways represented with the left and the right half of the globe as you separate it, and how they conceptualize and materialize their projects. You want to go a little into that because that was fascinating.
Yeah, it is. I think so too. But that is something that, if you go to ancient times, people had a different view of especially the four directions. In the Americas, then typically they would have these medicine wheels, and where each direction would have some kind of a spiritual quality, and they would be different. They would not be the same for all the four directions. So that's how they related to the world, as some kind of a structure that divided energies in different compartments, more or less. Now, what I then thought that sense to me. Certainly, I think there is a big difference in mentality between the East and the West. And, that is something that for centuries people have believed, that there is some difference between the East and the West. But nobody has really explained why it would be. I mean, you could say that, it's just different traditions, but that still doesn't make it, at least not for me, because there's such a difference in how people think. And not only that, people, they have done psychological tests on people and found that people in the East, they think differently from people in the West, for instance. And so, so I've taken that as a starting point and see, well, but then where is it where you can say that there is a separation between East and West? And then I have identified that based on a number of different factors, including not only the historical relevance of a line that goes basically through Berlin and Rome and down to Cape Town, but also the fact that was, I said a long time ago, 30 years ago, that this is where the separation goes between the East and the West. And this sort of a separation that is consistent with, the medicine wheel or many other ancient traditions who separated between the different four directions. But what was interesting was that 10 years ago, this particular line that I had already postulated would separate the two hemispheres, it was verified that on the level of the inner core of the Earth, not on the surface, but down inside, there was exactly a line at exactly the point where I had placed it. And on one side of it, on the western side, on the western hemisphere, the surface of the inner core of the Earth was crystalline, and the surface of the eastern hemisphere of the inner core of the Earth was more melted. And if we assume that information to us comes from the cosmos through the center of the Earth, the inner core of the Earth, then that would make sense, and it would sort of explain why there are different mentalities in the East and the West, to mention just two. So it was a real verification when it was shown that the two surface areas of the inner core of the Earth is not the same. They're different. And so then that is also a verification of not only the Native American medicine wheel, but many other cultures. You can go to China or India and so forth, but they have different qualities in the four directions. There is a reason for that, and the reason is how we download information from the cosmos through the center of the Earth. And to
me it was I had never thought of that, but when you think of China and their culture, and then Europe and its culture, they are so different. And they've developed differently, they express themselves differently. Their artwork is different. And and especially when you were looking at the artwork, how different it was, and how oftentimes the artwork does represent the level of awareness or consciousness that's going on within the artist at that particular point in time.
Right.
So it was one of those aha moments for me. It was like, okay, this makes sense. This resonated. with me tremendously because of when you're looking at things. And, I mean, while the whole globe is getting a download of awareness, everyone is going to take that download, that awareness, and apply it in different ways.
Right. Yeah.
And yet you have the pyramids in Egypt and then the pyramids in South America. And, I mean, a pyramid's a pyramid. So that there were, we did go through a time in which these huge edifices were being built, and yet, again, no record of who built them.
Right.
So is there, I mean, I'm not saying that cultures were taken by aliens or they went through a wormhole or they stepped into another dimension. I'm still curious as to who made them and how and why. And you know, they are there as mysteries for us. I don't buy any of those three different reasons, by the way. I'm not sure what I believe. But how do you equate? Now we've had, according to science, 5 mass extinction events in the Earth's time frame.
Yeah.
How do you weave those 5 massive major extinction periods? Do they correspond to the waves?
Yes, they do. I would say they do it even perfectly. That is not something I think I discussed in this particular book, The Global Mind. It is something I do discuss in my most recent book, The Living Universe, and also in another book that I call The Purposeful Universe. It is amazing, actually, how precisely these extinctions, 6 of them actually, if you include today's extinction, of how precisely they fit with these wave movements that I talked about. Because you can look upon a wave like a sine wave then, that it will go up and down, but then you can say that it also crosses a straight line when it goes up and down. And these shifts, these extinctions take place exactly, and I mean exactly, at these particular shift points. In this case, we're talking about the second wave, actually. So it's not at all. I mean, that goes back much further back in time. So it's not something that can be described by the 6th wave, but it can be described by the second wave that started 820 million years ago and then has gone up and down similarly. So there is actually then a sort of a parallel to how civilizations may have gone up and down, and how how different eras of different species in ancient times, in archaic times, in pre-human times, how they also have gone up and down. It's very similar. It's just that the frequency has been much higher now in recent times compared to in that. But it's really something that has a perfect explanation in this way of looking at the Mayan calendar.
So if these waves occurred even before humans were here.
Yeah. That's what I believe, yes.
Why are we here?
Why are we here? Because the other, the lower waves created animals and so forth, but that really didn't have any minds, you might say. So it's only with the human beings that we've started to have an evolution of the mind, as far as I can say, or evolution of consciousness, if you like that better. And why are we here? Well, I guess we're still, I would say we're here in order to climb the pyramid, to come to the top and regain that unity consciousness and change, based on that, change our behaviors. And yeah, that's how I would explain it. So that's what I believe.
But if these waves were going on before we were here,
yeah.
If humans were not here, would these waves still be ongoing and accessible for, whoever, whatever? I mean, animals, vegetables, minerals.
Yeah.
They would still be going on. So, is it just by chance that humanity, Homo sapiens, evolved? And if that's the case,
no.
is the same thing happening on other planets?
I would think, it's not by chance. I think the biological evolution has had as its aim to develop a kind of animal, if you like, to speak about ourselves as that, but one that was able to just download the higher states of consciousness, which other animals are not. We are the only ones that could do that. We're the only ones that are downloading minds from the cosmos, as far as I can tell. But then I lost. You had another question or comment that I lost there. Can you repeat?
Well, yeah, probably not. But if that's the
right.
case, I'm just. Oh, is this happening on other planets? I mean, is this the same ability to expand consciousness? Is it going on other planets in other species?
Okay. Yes, my answer would be yes. Of course, I don't know that, but my answer would be that, because these waves bringing states of consciousness from the cosmic center, these waves go out all across the universe, as far as I can see, and meaning that anywhere in the universe, in the billions of galaxies and billions and billions of stars, anywhere where there is sort of some kind of reasonable conditions for life to emerge, life would emerge based on these waves, because the waves are what is bringing life and also bringing civilizations if the conditions are there. To the Maya and to all peoples of Mesoamerica in ancient times, their highest deity was the so-called plumed serpent, and that plumed serpent then they built many different pyramids in honor of. And they just this week or so, they announced a new pyramid, or not really a pyramid, a circular temple that had been dedicated to the plumed serpent. Almost like a serpent or a snake that coils up, so to speak. That's how they built this particular temple. But the reason they built these temples is that that they say that the plumed serpent, or the feathered serpent, as they sometimes would talk about it as, or the Quetzalcoatl, which is the Aztec name of it, that they looked upon as the bringer of life and the bringer of civilization. And that makes perfectly sense once you recognize that what they refer to as a plumed serpent is really just a sine wave of one of these creation waves that I'm talking about in my books. So with a modern language, it would be a cosmic quantum wave, but that's not the language they would use, because they lived in nature, and so they would seek to find symbols for these waves that existed in their environment, and the serpents, the snakes, would be the best symbols that they could find of the sine wave. Simply, there's really very little else that moves exactly in that way. But we do know from ancient inscriptions and so forth that this plumed serpent, and as I would say, the cosmic wave here, that is the creator of life and creator of civilization. It has both tasks, and but in order it can start to create life from the very beginning. But in order to create civilization, it has to create a particular form of being, the human being, that then can download these particular geometries that is conducive to shaping a civilization. And that's what I believed happened.
Well, since we're in the opinion field here, it has occurred to me. It has occurred to me that do you have children at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, you know people that do.
I have met children. Yes.
Okay, so what I am seeing here with the wave thing, and the more we talk about the waves and everything, this to me is illustrative of birth pains.
Birth pains, yeah?
Birth pains. So that when a woman is in labor, they come in waves.
Yeah.
And so in a way, it's sort of like the universe is giving birth to something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know what.
No, right. No, yeah. Yeah.
And as the higher frequencies come, that's where the higher pains come. And I gave birth once. That was enough. But but the more I keep looking at these different waves, how more enlightenment comes with each wave, and it would seem to me that at some point the source is going to give birth to something. I think there's a process here. I don't think it's a never-ending story. I think there is an end to it. But and apparently, since we have awareness/consciousness, then we're part of the process. But I don't know that we're the focus of the process as much as a part of the process of creating something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I couldn't follow the last two sentences, I think.
Okay, so that we are a part of this process.
Yes.
In gathering consciousness, awareness, and everything. But we are not the focus of the birthing thing. We are a part of it, but we are not the focus of it.
Okay. Are you saying that your perception is that the divine center or divine will is actually wanting to create something other than us as some kind of an end result, or? Because so often as humans we have egos and we think that we're the focus of everything, but it feels in this case that if you're looking at it from a cosmic point of view, that the fact that we are gaining more and more awareness makes us a part perhaps of the conclusion or the birthing process, or but not the focus of it. Because, frankly, when you look at the source of creation and you look at us,
there's no comparison.
No.
So there, I think we're part of a plan. We're part of something that is magical and that is going to happen. But we happen to be something that developed along the line because these waves have been going on a lot longer than we have. So that we were not, we weren't the reason for the waves, but we are growing because of them. But we may luck out in the end, but I don't think that we're the star of the show, so to speak.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I don't think I agree with you there. I tend to think that I think it's about our transformation, essentially.
Okay.
But we'll have to see.
but we weren't there at the beginning. I mean, lots of waves happened before we evolved.
Right, but you can also argue that the lots of that evolution that took place early on as a result of these waves were all preparing for us to come forth. That would be my perspective.
Yeah, but if the source of can do anything it wants, it can start wherever it wants. It didn't have to go through millions
do you think
of years.
So?
Yeah.
Do you think it can do anything it wants?
I do. Yes, it's the source.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
And then of course the big question is, where did the source come from?
Yeah. If it has to come from somewhere, if it's not always existing.
I mean, it didn't just suddenly go poof. Here I am.
No.
Very simply.
But maybe it was always there.
And had nothing better to do with its time, so it decided to make
right.
This.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, at some point in time, both of us are going to pass over into spirit. We'll be able to check it out and get the true story, because our spirits are eternal. Our spirits are constantly going to be moving forward, no matter what kind of environment we're put in. The spirit will always evolve and grow and expand. So, but it feels to me as though there is a birthing process going on, and it may be us as humanity finally coming to understand, our purpose in life. But we have to have more of a purpose other than just being. There has to be a reason for this long journey we've been on.
Yeah. No, I agree. Except that purpose, I would say, I would identify as attaining on a large collective scale that kind of unity consciousness, or I would see as the goal, as the purpose, rather.
Well, long ago, we had a unity focus. We had a group mentality. We were telepathic with each other, and as we started to get more and more industrial, we lost that connection with each other, and we lost that group mind, so to speak. So that going back to trying to get back to that, and certainly shamans and healers and things like that are able to go into that group, that cosmic consciousness and group memory and draw on it from a human standpoint. But we aren't the only creatures in this universe. I mean, there have to be other species elsewhere. so it's kind of like I just kind of feel that there's a bigger picture, even so, than humanity getting to a place. And I'm wondering if maybe there are humanoid type people on other planets that are going through the same kind of process, almost as though we are part of a.
That I would believe.
If you look at the universe as a cosmic garden, and all of the plants within it are represented by planets with inhabitants, then at some point in time, everything will go to seed and send seeds out to create other planets and whatever. So there's a much bigger picture here. But I think what you've done is bring it down to a point where everybody can look at it and relate to it, and look at, how can I get into this flow of this pattern, this level, this frequency, so that I can, make life better now. I mean, because, we can talk hundreds of thousands of years in the future, and we'll probably be there debating something else. But well, what's the point? I mean, you don't just sit and drink nectar. There has to be a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask the source of all creation why, and it just will say to you, because I say so, because that's the way it is. I think there is more to it than that. I just don't know what it is. That's one of the quandaries that I struggle with constantly. It's sort of like, okay, and we have all these abilities, and with all of these downloads that downloads, what better way would it's almost like portals are open to new levels of consciousness, and as that happens, a lot of people find something like that very unsettling, when suddenly they know something has happened and they're not sure what it is. It's sort of like you have all these tools. Try them on, use them, see how you can improve your life and the life of those around you. So, but your book definitely, you mentioned that, it can help to develop unity consciousness. And I think that's something that we've all lost track of, because originally we were communities that supported one another, and now we're very independent, even as countries and cities and states and stuff like that. So that getting back to that point in time where we can reach out and become one with the rest of humanity. It is called, the family of man and woman for a reason. So it's really cool. I just noticed our time. We're out of it.
Okay.
But I know you're coming back, and we're going to do another book. So I'm looking forward to that. But I thank you very much for taking the time tonight to share your time and your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
This, very much so.
Birthing pain. It's birthing pain.
Yeah, it is, probably.
I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow. This book was absolutely an adventure. Please check it out. It's there's a lot of material here, and it's well worth digging through and assimilating and forming your own opinions, but growing, absolutely. Good night now.
Today, Midas fixes more than you know. Midas of Nashville is here for all your tire and car care needs. As a special for our valued customers, Midas is offering a $24.99 synthetic blend or $49.99 full synthetic oil change with a closer look vehicle check included. So stop by any of our 9 Nashville locations today or call ahead to request an appointment for tires, brakes, oil, and repairs. Most vehicles. See store for details. Other oils and specialty filters extra. Not valid with other offers.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.